Okay, let's start again. There's always one problem with it. If we go along this line, and there's always the fundamental problem, and I come back actually to one of the questions, that at the end we try to have concrete figures and to have very clear models. That's what we try as economists. In economics, we try to reduce complexity and say, okay, 1 plus 1 is 2. Easy, we can calculate this. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. Still, we can calculate this. We have actually today very complex calculations going beyond 3, going far beyond 3. But the one point is we are still dealing with vague terms in terms of scarcity. Scarcity is, on the one hand, of course, a very simple concept that you can say, okay, 1 for 1, 1 book for 1 student. Based on need. Need is a vague term. As I said, you can say the need is for 2 students having 1 book. The other understanding is I want to have 2 books. Or we want to have not 1 book for 2, but for 4, for 5. We want to have 1 book in the library, or many books in the library, and no private books. So you come back to what I mentioned during the first semester, different kinds of goods. Public goods in the library, private goods, your own book, toll goods, it's in the library, but you have to pay to take it out for the time you use, or a common pool resource which does not apply for books. It's not applicable. Anyway, the problem is risk. There's always the risk that I get things wrong, that I have a wrong understanding of scarcity in terms of the market, because this is what we talk about in scarcity in terms of the market. Staying with the books, I can say, okay, there are 60 students, there are 100 universities where this course is taught, so 60 by 100, simple calculation, how many books I have. I define what scarcity is, meaning 1 book for every student is the needed supply rate. Maybe next semester there are 61 students in each course. Maybe, which is good, because then there is actually supply and demand. I can say, actually, I can produce more books or I increase the price. The other way is I have too much books. That's not good. Market and demand, supply and demand. I don't know what to do with the additional books. I can keep them for the next year, possibly. So things are a little bit risky. As well, the cost benefit, I don't know the development of climate conditions. I don't know, looking at chains of production, I don't know the development of the price of paper. I don't know how many time people think it is valuable to spend for something, a risk. So we have to deal with a complex situation, and all this is linked to a second point, meaning information. We talked about the role of information. We talked about the difference of information people have. And usually what we say is, of course, in our models, a world in models is beautiful. Nothing goes wrong. Everything is very simple. You say information, everybody has the same information. And the same information means complete information in terms of the information needed. To buy water, to buy a computer, I don't have to know everything about religion and the development of the world before 1500s. But I have to know some basics about the quality of water, if it's healthy, if my body can cope with it, if the computer works, if I need electricity, if I have the electricity, meaning especially the same voltage that is needed for the computer. You find it usually in every hotel, saying the currency is so-and-so in terms of electricity, don't connect your computer if it is not compatible. This is the information you need when you buy a product. And then you buy something, but you did not know that it is actually limited in terms of the use of the keyboard. If you ever wrote, if you come from English, German language, Italian language is a little bit tricky again, but use a keyboard, French keyboard, it's horrible. It takes you 3 times as long as it does on another keyboard to write an English word. Because they have the accents and all this. It's very difficult to write if you come from this. You buy the computers, you say, okay, there's a keyboard, all I need is there, monitor, I buy it, but they did not tell you it's a French keyboard. Bad luck. This is information you need. So it's always a little bit difficult, it's a risk as well. Do I really have enough information? Do I really know everything? A shorthand is price. For many things, we say the price gives us at least the information of a general quality. If it's more expensive, it's better. That's what we usually think. Now, the better is contestable, it looks better, it's better quality in terms of durability, it's better for the environment, maybe, that the price includes, we do not use environmentally hostile products or raw materials. At least this is better. Now, years ago, I bought a lawnmower. I don't know anything about lawnmowers, so I went into the shop, saw lawnmowers, looking pretty much the same. In terms of size, there was not one sit-on and one where I had to push it. And not knowing anything and always admitting how stupid I am, I walked to the salesperson and I said, sorry, can you help me? This and this lawnmower, they look pretty much the same. This costs 300 euro, this costs 500 euro. So what is really better with this one? He said, the price for us, just buy the cheap one, he was good, buy the cheap one, they are all broken after 5 years, latest. It's a built-in mechanism. We want to sell lawnmowers. So we won't sell a lasting product. And it's not that the one breaks down after 5 years and the other after 10 years. Just buy the cheap one. It's okay. Same quality. There are some minor differences, but they are not relevant. Information is not in the price, although we consider it is in the price in many cases. In many cases, it actually is in the price, because it is the price following the calculation of the production cost. But we talked about at least two different dimensions of price. The one is, what does it cost to produce something? Time spent per production, which is not just the hours I put into it, but the hours that had been used to produce the raw material and element. So the production cost of something. And the other is the definition of the price by supply, demand, and supply. So 2 dimensions of price building processes. Considerations in terms of risk taking. I produce so many products because I think I can sell 600 books. I don't know. It may be I would be able to sell them for 25 yuan, but not for 30. Risk. I don't have the information on everything that is going on. Now, as I said, in economics, we try to reduce complexities, and we say, okay, we put everything into this scheme. Production of goods, we can calculate the price, we can foresee supply and demand, how the price develops, and how many products or how many goods and services we should supply. Because if the price drops, what do? We produce less, or we say actually we produce more to sell more and get the same profit. Now, what we have is what I would call a productivist, industrialist understanding of economics, of the economy. Production of goods and services for the market, providing all information needed to everybody, cheating included, and saying, okay, there is a risk, but we can approximate the values of things and the exchange processes. Demand, supply, produce whatever you can produce. Look at opportunity cost, look at marginality rates. That's basically it. A very simple world. As I said, this makes economics so interesting or boring that you can calculate everything. If you have something that you did not calculate the first instance, put it into the equation, calculate it the next time. Now, human brains have a kind of strange way of functioning with this reduction. We have to do it, At the same time, we know that we are pretty stupid in doing so. We do it in all disciplines. Economists are as stupid as anybody else. This is why you occasionally find people who get the Nobel Prize or something, some great awards, that in economics, people said, with the time, develop this knowledge, if you want. Okay, this model is fine. But there are people acting. We talked about it. There are enterprises, there are producers, there are workers, there are customers. There is a state. Why do we have all this? What is the effect of it? It's not just about goods and their exchange, production and exchange. But it is as well about institutions. I have a small enterprise, I have a little trailer, and buy some oranges or peanuts or whatsoever, roasted peanuts here in front of the college gate. I have my license, and I stand next to the supermarket. They buy these, they sell these things in bags which had been produced, I don't know where, en masse. They are not fresh. It's not the same thing, but in a way it's the same thing. But what is the difference between selling and from my little trailer and selling in the large supermarket? One point is, for instance, I get it fresh on my little trailer, at least if it's roasted peanuts. With the oranges, I don't know from where they are and when they had been delivered onto this trailer. In the supermarket, I know they are not fresh. There's something else. With my little shop, this trailer, I do everything. Perhaps my wife, my children, my grandparents do something as well when I come home and they do the books. Maybe my daughter, my son is attending a course here at BCC. You can do it already. It's not so much. You can do it. Bookkeeping for such a small enterprise, it's fine. You do it. Don't think you can do it for a large supermarket chain. You can do it after 3 years. You can contribute to it at this stage, but this is something where you need more knowledge. Still, that's one of the theses of the institutionalist economies or economics, where it actually started, saying we have enterprises because it limits the transaction costs. Whatever I do myself. If I am a large enterprise, I still do it myself. I have the complete control over it. As soon as I ask somebody else to do it, outside, there is a cost involved. Is this person, is this enterprise, the accountants outside of my enterprise, are they really better so that I can invest to pay them and invest the transaction cost, giving them the information and analysis? Or is it worthwhile to say, I have my large enterprise, I do everything, from ordering the raw material, processing it, my computer department, my accounting department, that then finally says, yeah, we made profit. And we made huge profit, because we did not pay anybody else to do the work we did. Institutions matter. Institutions matter as well in terms of a regulatory framework. For instance, the state that says, if you want to have your trailer out there, there are certain conditions. Maybe you are not allowed to start before 8 o'clock in the morning, and you have to stop at 5 o'clock. Or you can only do it when the supermarket is closed. The supermarket is open from 9 to 5. Before and after you can sell. Different reasons, different dimensions, what can be regulated, what should be regulated, and why should it be regulated. Working conditions. Children are not allowed to work. What does it mean? Who is a child in this respect? What is work? Is it only full-time employment, or is it any kind of work, the little job at the petrol station for 2 hours per day? So regulations by the state are again a question of institutions. There's another dimension to it, that economists said, this is fine. Yes, we have to work with it. We have to think about production of GDP and. But it's not simply produce more and everything is fine. There's something about what is called social choice, and it developed into a separate strand, into a different strand of economics. Social or public choice theory. Basically saying, this model, the original model, is based on what we talked about, individuals making their own decision to produce and reproduce whatever they want for the market, complete information included, and that's all we have to think about. And this will automatically increase welfare for all. Adam Smith's title of the book, The Wealth of Nations. The problem with it was, for instance, inequality. The wealth of nations meant not that everybody was getting richer or getting better off. It meant it to some extent, but at the same time it meant that you find a curve where you have a slight increase for everybody, or nearly everybody, but you have a huge increase for some. So this gap is getting larger and larger. Now, you can say, and we will come back to this at a later stage, it's fine. Everybody is better off. So why should we complain? You can say as well, and then you come a little bit back to this question of society, it's unjust. But it is as well not productive. This inequality means that people are not healthy. These people are not really healthy because they don't have the means to go to the doctor, to go to the hospital or whatsoever. So we come back to this question of different kind of products. There should be, this is a social choice, public choice question, there should be some products produced as public goods that they are, so that they are accessible, available for everybody. If you have 1 million per month and you have 1,000 per month, both of you should be able to go to the doctor, to the hospital if needed, independent that you can pay for it and you will not be able to pay for it. Education. Actually, Adam Smith talked about it as well, that we should have public provision for education. Don't leave everything for the market, because there is something in terms of education that is needed actually to produce more. So even in these terms, you have this dimension of a public, of a social choice. We have to think about not only what is good for one person, at the end it will be good for everybody, but as well we have to think about some provisions that have to be provided by public institutions as public good. There are always difficulties to decide. Should everybody have a basic education, just being able to read and to write and to calculate up to 10? Or should everybody have at least secondary level education? Or should everybody go to the university third level education? What is about additional training over time? If you do a course on computers today, in 5 years this knowledge, forget it, it's old. Because this stuff develops so fast, if you just do your course now and you don't follow up things, it's not useful anymore. So, permanently going on education, lifelong learning. Should it be provided or not? You have some education, that's good. You can work, you can contribute to the GDP production. Not as good as you could do under other conditions, but a question of social choice. And then, of course, you have to link it as well, again, back to the institutions. Which institutions do we need? And risk, cost benefit. There's always a little bit problem with all these concepts that you can say, okay, we decide to have third level education for at least, let's say, 1/3 of the population. I cannot calculate it in general, I cannot calculate it for China. Take the population, take the age cohort in the age after secondary level, and how many universities, how many teachers do you need? When you come to these points, back, that you can say, okay, I get actually classes with 500 students, 1,600. I think first semester we had been about 160. Just add a zero. A zero doesn't matter. It's nothing. So 1,600. Large lecture halls. There is the sports ground that's not used anyway. We can go there for the lecture. You definitely need a good microphone and good speakers, but that's it. Why not? There was the decision taken now instead of going that way and increasing classes, we reduce class sizes and say it's better for you to study in relatively small groups, so we halved, and we have, instead of 160, about 80. You can go further, cost benefit. You can say in really small groups, one-to-one is the best education, or 1 to 4 people, so have more teachers employed. Cost benefit, where is, how to balance this? What kind of institution do you need? How much can you invest? Now there is another dimension coming into play, that some economists said everything is fine. So this model we have to think about. What is produced, how much is produced and redistributed, then we have, or distributed, and then we have to look for the institutions, how they deal with the way of distributing things, transaction cost, what does it cost to do it this way, and compare it with another way. And then we have this public choice, the social choice, and say we can calculate it actually, and say this is the best way of deciding. We'll go through it at a later stage and talk about game theory, for instance. It's very much about information. If I do not have complete information, what do? The game is called poker, in terms of card games. You just pretend. You have your cards. I don't know how it works really. I'm just pretending. You have your cards and you bluff and you say, well, my cards are perfect. So force the other to give up. And then you said, actually, I have had rubbish. But then it's too late for the other to say, well, sorry, my cards have been better. Just try to play the game. As more information as I have, as more it's getting difficult. It's getting more difficult then to play this game. If I have complete information, it's impossible. So it is about institutions, it is about social choice, provide all the information you need and then decide. But there is one thing we cannot decide, or where it's even more difficult to decide. And this had been looked by so-called behavioral economics. We talked about it, I wrote it down here. We talked about it as well during the first semester, that this model is based on an understanding, on the assumption that every person behaves in a rational way, and the rational or the rationality is calculating things in terms of utility, cost and benefit as a matter of utility. How much do I invest? How much do I get out of it in terms of money? That makes me happy. Already at the early stage, utilitarianism did not really think this way, but economics pushed it into this way because this was something you can calculate. Now there's always a certain benefit, a certain utility if you want, if I do charitable work. I can just enjoy it. I think it's good to do it. I do additional education, not because I think I get a better job, because I want to understand something. I don't want to have it for work. It's a joy to know. I drive the stupid car, which I mentioned before, just because I like it. And I pay a huge amount of money for it. And I may indebt myself. I can't pay for it, but I still buy it and drive it. It's not rational. We do it. I buy a product simply because the name, the brand, is so important for me. It is not better than anything else. But there is, in a way, a different dimension of social choice. Everybody has it, so I should have it as well. It doesn't matter whichever mobile phone you have, but it matters that you have the latest model to show off. And then, of course, you have certain brands where actually the name matters as well. It's a kind of strange mechanism. We all do it. We all know that we do it. And we still do it. Not in every case. But there is a certain behavior dimension to economics that we cannot easily include into this model of a productivist model. And then try to think this together. On the behavioral side, you may say, I want to work 4 hours in this job, then 2 hours in another job because I really like it. I don't get much money for it, but I like this work. I like engaging with these people. And then I have another 2 hours where I do technical work. Then your company comes and says, 8 hours working day, and that's it. Take it or leave it. That's the institutional framework. Now, as I said, 4 hours, you may be lucky and find a company that says, okay, 8 hours, we need somebody for 8 hours. If you get somebody else for 4 hours, you get the job together, and we have, as an institution, we have 1 8-hour position filled. Because we are doing shift work, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours a day. With 2 hours, it's difficult. So you have these limits there. And then you may have as well a dimension of social choice that people say, actually, we allow people, or we encourage people, actually, to do something outside of these 8 hours. We reduce the 8 hours under the condition that you do charitable work, additional education, caring for your children, your relatives, or whatsoever. We encourage this. We, public choice, social choice, force the institution to change the rules according to certain behavioral expectations. And then we can go back. We don't have to go back, but we can go back and say, actually, it may be even more productive. That's then human relations, to have happy, satisfied workforce, who are not going 8 hours with disgust to work, but who like their flexibility, who like the way they can work, who like that they are able to do something at the same time, and who then say, actually, during the time I work for this company, I really like it and I'm highly productive. I use the additional education I may get even for the company, even if it's not simply for the company, but it is useful to have it. It's not immediately needed, but it is good to have it. So think about economics in this respect of a wider understanding whenever you do your calculations. And think about as well, this is what we are moving towards, at least, looking at different understanding of what had been here mentioned, welfare. To have a clear understanding in economics, then we come to Pareto optimum and things like this, and we are able to problematize it. There is one thing I mentioned indirectly with the institutionalist and social choice dimension. It is about politics. Never forget that whatever we do in economics is a matter of the political system and political decisions. Because, for instance, working conditions, that's a matter of political decisions. The need of certain products or environmental issues, it's a matter of decision that is taken politically. It is linked, of course, where do we have it, to what we understand as production. But this was something coming up actually last week when, I don't know, the Prime Minister or President was on a meeting in one of the provinces and said, it's great, you contributed hugely and you have been the best province, I think, in the country producing and contributing to the GDP growth, but at the same time we have to maintain it and look at the quality. So it's the task, basically, we have to think this together, and I'll stop here because it's probably switched off, switched on anyway, and we are, I think, more or less on time. Keep in mind, you will have to read some additional stuff. I note as well the chapters next time, or I put them onto the blackboard, that are essential throughout the course. I will start again at some stage to work with slides, but it is important really, make your notes, listen to what I say, discuss it as well amongst each other, ask me if there are any questions, and then we go on from there. Thank you.